Welcome to Department of Distance and Continuing Education, University of Delhi. Master of Business Administration, MBA. Semester 1, Core Course MBAFT 6107. Business Communication. Unit 3, Interpersonal Communication. 3.1 Learning Objectives. After completion of this lesson, you should be able to define interpersonal communication, its principles, and the major theories of interpersonal communication. Understand the dynamics of communicating in teams and apply strategies for improving your communication within the team. Understand the process of negotiation and apply communication strategies for successful negotiations. Use communication strategies for averting and resolution of conflicts. Formulate a plan for mentoring and communicating with mentees for improved transfer of knowledge and skills. Improve handling of appraisals through communication strategies. Understand the process of digital communication and social media communication. 3.2 Introduction. Lack of communication ruins everything because instead of knowing how the person is feeling, we just assume. Humans are a gregarious species for whom communication is a tool of socialization. We communicate with each other all the time at the level of individual to individual, individual to group, and vice versa. In fact, communication is identified as a basic human need, which implies that people engage in interpersonal communication throughout their lives, starting from infancy till the very end of one's life. Interpersonal communication is a very important and highly valued skill, not just in the professional context, but also in the personal and social context. It is through interpersonal communication that humans develop and maintain relationships. On closer examination of the concept of interpersonal communication, you will realize that you simply cannot choose to opt out of it. There is no way you can choose not to have interpersonal communication, so much so that making a conscious decision not to communicate by ignoring somebody is also a type of communication. Your signal of ignoring someone will be decoded based on the other non-verbal signals accompanying your silence. 3.3 Understanding interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication refers to the exchange of thoughts, ideas, and feelings between two or more people through the means of verbal and non-verbal communication. Interpersonal communication can be of the following types. A. Listening. The most important yet the most neglected communication type is that of listening or active listening, which is the cornerstone of interpersonal communication as well as a relationship. B. Verbal. It is the spoken word, including the language that you select, the manner in which you speak, and so on. C. Non-verbal. In a face-to-face interaction, everything that gets conveyed without the use of words is non-verbal communication. It includes gestures, postures, silence, eye contact or absence of it, expressions, pitch of voice, intonation and modulation, etc. D. Written. This type includes the use of writing and involves codifying the message in a particular language that the receiver understands. 3.3.1 Principles of Interpersonal Communication. There are certain principles of interpersonal communication that form the basis of our understanding of the phenomenon. These principles will help a discerning individual to be an effective communicator. The principles are mentioned below. 1. You cannot do without interpersonal communication. In other words, interpersonal communication is indispensable. It is quite evident that a life devoid of any interpersonal communication is impossible. Any attempt to lead a life of complete isolation is bound to fail, as the interdependence of humans for emotional, physical, and material needs is inescapable. 2. Interpersonal communication is irreversible by definition. It simply means that once you communicate something, it is out there and cannot be taken back. You may regret whatever you said or make a formal apology. However, the damage to the relationship may already have taken place. Mahatma Gandhi famously wrote in his autobiography, and I can now give myself the certificate that a thoughtless word hardly ever escapes my tongue or pen. 3. Interpersonal communication is a complex process due to the sheer variety of the variables involved in it. There are the individuals themselves who choose a language, words, symbols, body language, expressions, etc., followed by perceptions of the individuals, and then there is the all important context, all of which have infinite permutations and combinations, causing interpersonal communication to be highly complex. Figure 3.1 depicts, is communication really taking place? 4. Interpersonal communication occurs in a context that a communicator needs to be aware about. In other words, the context helps you determine how your messages will be interpreted. The broad categories into which the context can be segregated are listed below. A. Psychological. Interpersonal communication is influenced by the state of mind or the state of psychological well-being of the parties engaged in communication. For instance, an individual under considerable work-related pressure may get agitated on being asked completely harmless questions at home, or yell at a child who insists on him or her playing with the child. B. Situational. The place, situation, circumstance, occasion, setting where the communication is taking place has a great impact on it. In simple words, people communicate differently in different situations. C. Relational. The nature of relationship that exists between the communicating parties greatly influences the communication process. For instance, two friends would communicate so differently when compared to how each of them would communicate with his or her parents. D. Cultural. Every culture has certain set of unwritten rules that are manifest and understood only by those initiated into that culture. The difference in cultures of the people engaging in communication may cause them to interpret signals differently due to ethnocentric bias or ethnocentrism. 3.3.2 Theories of Interpersonal Communication. There are several theories of interpersonal communication that provide very useful framework for understanding the process. These theories are based on different perspectives and accordingly help in the study and practice of effective communication. Uncertainty reduction theory. Human beings are inherently uncomfortable with uncertainty and prefer predictability. The uncertainty is classified into cognitive and behavioral uncertainties. The former refers to the lack of clarity on the other person's beliefs, thoughts, views and opinions, etc., whereas the latter refers to the lack of predictability of an individual's actions. The uncertainty reduction theory tries to explain the initial interaction among people as an attempt to reduce the uncertainty as to their behavior towards each other. The higher the uncertainty, the greater is the distance between people. The theory assumes that people would cognitively gauge uncertainty and act with the objective of reducing it. Though there needs to be a trigger as per this theory that will prompt the individual to take steps to reduce the uncertainty. This trigger is usually in the form of a social situation and/or the cognitive process. The uncertainty reduction theory states that people tend to reduce uncertainty using the approaches mentioned below. Active approach. It involves an individual trying to gain information about the target by asking those acquainted with the latter. Passive approach. As the name suggests, the passive approach entails gathering information about the other person by observation. Interactive approach. This approach is also an active approach where an individual uses direct interaction as a strategy to learn about the other person by probing and sharing. Extractive approach. The extractive information seeking approach was later added to the theory and is about using online media to get information about a person. Application of the uncertainty reduction theory. The major application of the uncertainty reduction theory is in the area of intercultural communication, recruitment, treatment of patients, and computer mediated communication, CMC. Here is what CMC is. The various forms of communication between people that happens through two or more electronic devices connected through network, which can be synchronous and asynchronous. The exchange can be one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many through the medium of text messaging, voice, and video. Social exchange theory. The social exchange theory states that individuals choose social interactions that they perceive to be beneficial for them. This theory postulates that human interaction is akin to economic trade, which is founded on cost-benefit analysis, with each participant vying for maximization of benefits and minimization of costs. The process involves disclosure of information between individuals as long as the costs of doing so are more than offset by the benefits. As a consequence, the individuals progressively gain intimacy as long as they keep receiving rewards. Marriage is an example of a social exchange where each individual in the relationship feels content and comfortable as long as they feel that they are getting reciprocated with benefits equal to the efforts put in by him or her. The failure of a marriage is a result of decreasing level of rewards and reciprocity as perceived by one or both the partners. A similar situation can be imagined in a professional context where an employee will be discontent if he or she thinks that the remuneration is not commensurate with the efforts and performance. It must be amply clear by now that the cornerstones of this theory are the cost-benefit analysis and reciprocity. 3.4 Communicating in teams. A team is a group of individuals selected on the basis of possession of complementary skills who work together and generate synergy to achieve a common objective. Teamwork is based on sharing of responsibility and active communication. How are teams different from groups? The simple difference between a group and a team lies in that in the former, the members coordinate their efforts in the pursuit of individual goals, and in the latter, the members coordinate their efforts towards achievement of a common goal. 3.4.1 Characteristics of a team. Clarity of goal. The fundamental aspect of teams is that before a team is put together, the goals or objectives and the desired outcomes have to be decided. It would help the team to work with a clear direction. However, the team is often given sufficient flexibility to formulate strategies for achieving the goals. Interdependence. The team members are dependent on each other and are unable to achieve the goals independently. There is considerable reliance of the team members on each other for the right information and support in terms of expertise in a particular domain. Responsibility and accountability. The team members are collectively responsible for completion of the assigned work and are collectively accountable for it. The risks and rewards are shared by the team members. Authority. The team as a unit is given the authority to make decisions pertaining to the activities undertaken by it in the pursuit of the desired outcomes and goals. Open communication. Communication is the most important ingredient for an effective and successful team. The way of communication, the methods adopted for communication within the team, and the frequency of communication, etc., determine how well the team is functioning. It is this characteristic of teams that we will be focusing on. 3.4.2 Team communication. Team communication refers to the exchange of information among the members of team working towards a common goal or objective. An overwhelming number of professionals would agree that the most common cause of failures in the workplace is ineffective communication. Organizations rely on teams for getting the work done, and therefore effective teams are valued very highly, not just in the organizational context but also in myriad fields such as sports, research, etc. Benefits of improving team communication. Organizations and leaders are constantly on the lookout for ways of improving communication within the organization. These organizations have several teams that are working on crucial projects. It is imperative for leaders to ensure that there is a culture of open and effective communication for smooth functioning of the organization and for the achievement of organizational objectives. Improving team communication has the following key benefits. Rapport building. During the initial phase of a team, improving communication within the team reduces the uncertainty as to each other's behavior, which helps break the ice. It leads to better coordination and helps build trust and confidence within the team. A well-coordinated team with no trust issues is better placed for achieving the goals and desired outcomes. Fosters innovation. Continuous exchange of information and feedback within a team can be the source of creativity and innovation. It helps discover more efficient ways of doing things and arriving at out-of-the-box solutions to work-related problems. Conflict management. Possibly the greatest advantage of better team communication is that it helps in early resolution of conflicts within the team. It can even help in avoiding and averting potential conflict situations. Active listening is a skill that is all important in team communication as it improves shared understanding of each other's perspectives, opinions, needs, and emotions. By paying attention to others' perspectives and giving it a genuine thought, you'll be able to better comprehend and appreciate them and respond in a constructive manner, thereby minimizing the chances of conflicts. Active listening also includes listening to the body language, which can supplement your comprehension of the spoken word. Some very simple yet useful techniques that will come handy in handling situations of conflict are mentioned below. Note how these are all closely connected with active listening. Paraphrase. Restate what the other person has said in your own words. This will prompt the other person to recognize that you genuinely listen to him or her and that you understand the other person's view. Restate. It is plain repetition of what the other person has just told you. This again demonstrates that you are actively engaging in the communication. Reframe. It is a description of what you understand about the other person's needs or demands. If you use positive language to reframe, it will show your earnestness to overcome the impasse. Summarize. It involves giving a brief of the situation in your own words, also putting into words the emotions that may have been manifest in the other person's communication. It will reassure them that you have the right understanding of the situation. Improves productivity. A team that communicates effectively gets to improve its productivity as there is a clear understanding of each other and very few chances of an information blockage. We have seen technology coming to the aid of teams in the form of applications that enable sharing of screens, virtual meetings, etc. It has lowered the time frame required for team members to get in sync. Work culture. Communicating routinely as a trust and confidence building measure helps build a work culture that appreciates and values teamwork. It helps create a healthy and transparent work environment where employees put in their best with earnestness. 3.4.3 Strategies to improve team communication. In an idyllic workplace, there is open communication with full professionalism and close collaboration among team members. Each team member is aware and conscious of his or her roles and responsibilities. There are no conflicts and all goals are achieved within the given timelines. However, the reality is nowhere close to the above picture. Most workplaces are characterized by mistrust, misunderstandings, conflicts, delays, and cost overruns. There are certain strategies that will help in improving team communication and overcoming issues such as misunderstandings, conflicts, delays, etc. Some of these strategies have been discussed below. Cultivate open door policy. Many organizations have been following the open door policy, which encourages employees to ask questions, raise concerns, share experiences, and put forward novel ideas. Some have gone to the extent of removing actual doors and partitions as it is believed that it would facilitate free exchange of thoughts and ideas. The open door policy also helps create an atmosphere of trust and confidence which is conducive for improvement in productivity. This policy would help in immediate resolution of issues rather than waiting for a formal meeting to be scheduled for it. Exchange feedback. The leaders must help develop a practice of exchanging feedback at various levels. Feedback is a two-way process and the person receiving the feedback needs to develop a receptive temperament. However, feedback has to be constructive rather than vindictive. Documentation of constructive feedback can also help create resources that can be used for future learning. Team building exercises. Team outings, excursions, games, and other such fun activities go a very long way in improving the communication between team members. A two-day trip with your colleagues will help you learn about them more than years of working together in office. Such activities, if planned at regular intervals, can be a great de-stressing experience. It will help the team members rejuvenate themselves, and the activities undertaken during the team building exercise will help expose hidden talents in some of the team members. Use technology. Technology has provided tools for teams to better coordinate and simplify workflow. There are innumerable cloud-based applications available which aid in communicating better, especially when the team is not located at one place. Standardizing the use of some of these applications will make it convenient for everyone and it would be easier to initiate new members into the ecosystem. These applications enable collaboration, progress review, referring to workflow, deadlines, etc. in a much easier way than a conventional email-based communication. Address personnel diversity. The industry is witnessing greater workforce diversity than ever before. Individuals of different nationalities, regions, cultures, professions, sexual orientation, ideologies and languages, etc. often come together to work in the same teams. Understanding each other's culture, language, accents, slangs, beliefs and humor will take time and concerted efforts at team building. The leaders have to take charge and devise methods to enable greater interaction and improve difficulties due to a multicultural team. Communication training. Training the team members in communication related modules or courses will equip them with skills to function as a coherent unit by application of effective communication strategies. The training programs may be selected based on the nature of the work being handled by the team and the existing skill sets, strengths and the weaknesses of the members. 3.4.4 Challenges in team communication. There are many challenges that teams have to deal with in order to operate efficiently. It is important for you to understand what these challenges are so that you can detect issues before they get out of hand and cause injury to the team fabric. Let us discuss some major challenges that teams face. Bias towards one's own position. It is observed that sometimes a group member takes a position and defends it unnecessarily in a bid to prove himself right. Such a situation arises when an individual keeps his ego above the interest of the group. The solution is to orient the team members right from the time of induction into the team to think for the common good of the team by putting the interest of the team first. Lack of trust. Trust deficit among members of a team is one of the most common causes of lack of communication within the team. This lack of trust can manifest itself in the form of following behaviors. Members avoiding each other, avoiding team meetings, refusal to seek and offer assistance, low morale, lack of warmth, groupthink. When the group members become too comfortable with each other, they tend to desire group cohesion to such an extent that the group starts thinking of having a consensus all the time. This is known as groupthink, and it has the effect of driving out critical analysis of ideas, opinions, and alternatives. Groupthink retards proper communication within a team as there is no exchange of fresh ideas, alternative positions, and perspectives. Everybody agrees to everything and eventually nothing innovative comes out of the team. Issues with communication tools. It is obvious that the members of a team may not be sitting in the same office. In fact, some or even all team members may be working from different locations. In such a scenario, the communication among team members is only as good as the tools used for communication. If there are high-tech cloud-based tools for communication, it makes things pretty seamless. However, there may be members who may not be as comfortable with such tools as others. Information overload. It has been observed that when a team makes use of multiple platforms for communication such as emails, phone calls, video conferencing, face-to-face meetings, instant messaging, etc., there is so much of information being exchanged on a daily, even hourly basis that keeping a track of things becomes a challenge. As soon as you see issues in team communication can arise not just because of the lack of information exchange but also due to excess of it. Hybrid teams. After the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, companies started forming hybrid teams. A hybrid team is one in which some members work remotely and some may be working from the office premises. Mostly, the facility of working from a remote location is rotated between members so as to offer flexibility to all. Based on the workload and urgency, the arrangement is adapted to suit specific requirements. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the concept of hybrid teams was restricted mostly to distributed teams. However, it is now used widely because of obvious benefits, some of which are mentioned below. Cost effective both for the employee as well as the employer. Provides flexibility. Companies can hire talent which may not be available locally. Helps in attaining work-life balance. The above benefits notwithstanding, there are several issues with hybrid teams as well. The most important thing is that in hybrid teams, physical connect is lost. Cohesion among team members usually develops by means of face-to-face interactions, especially those informal conversations around the pantry area during coffee breaks. Further, whatever important decisions are taken in the office is required to be communicated to the remote workers to keep them abreast. These communication channels need to be worked out and formalized to ensure that the people for whom it is intended actually consume it. 3.5. Negotiation. The negotiation refers to the back and forth communication or dialogue between two or more parties to reach an agreement on issues that concern these parties where there may be some common interests and some common conflicting interests. People negotiate routinely in their personal and professional lives. However, some negotiations are rather challenging that require certain skill sets for achieving a mutually agreeable outcome. You will observe that most people are not very adept at negotiation. In fact, many people fear negotiations, though one can pick up the required skills to be a good negotiator by training, doing your homework, and with some practice. 3.5.1. Types of negotiations. Distributive. There are negotiations in which the involved parties negotiate for the distribution of a fixed value. In such negotiations, one's gain is a result of the share foregone by the other. These negotiations are like zero-sum games where the gain of one is the loss of the other. It is also known as a win-lose negotiation. Integrative. The negotiations where multiple factors and interests are under discussion and provide an opportunity to the negotiators to satisfy the needs of each party are called integrative negotiations. It can potentially turn out to be a win-win situation for the parties involved. Distributive negotiations also have the potential to be turned into integrative if the issues are rethought and the parameters are reworked. Team negotiation. These negotiations, which is conducted by a team of negotiators from each side, is called a team negotiation. For instance, an automotive component manufacturer from India is interested in entering into a joint venture JV with a Japanese company. The Indian company sends a team of 6 negotiators, with each of the negotiators having a specialized expertise. The Japanese counterpart will also have multiple members to proceed with the negotiations. Multi-party negotiation. As the name suggests, multi-party negotiations involve multiple parties and the interests of these parties is at stake, which makes multi-party negotiation much more difficult. For the same reason, multi-party negotiation requires more polished and wider skills. A very good example is that of trade negotiations at the World Trade Organization (WTO), where the interest of all 164 member countries is involved and the representatives of each of the member countries are experts in the domain. One-time or one-shot negotiation. Negotiations where the parties involved negotiate only once and have no intention of any further dealings in the future. Since there is no intention of a long-term engagement, the parties can potentially resort to unethical means. For example, suppose you are standing outside a movie theater and see the houseful sign and decide to purchase a ticket from a black marketer. The latter may resort to unethical means to sell the ticket. His or her aim is to sell at a high price and yours is to get it at a cost as close as to the window price. 3.5.2 Some key negotiation skills. Planning. Proper planning to work out the details of the short-term, medium-term and long-term ramifications of the terms of negotiations will ensure that you are not caught by surprise in the middle of the negotiation and will prevent you from exposing your position. Communication. Communication is an indispensable skill that becomes the medium through which negotiations take place. During a negotiation, communicating the right messages in the right manner so as to sound compelling and persuasive is a skill that is required over time. It involves careful selection of words, observation of non-verbal cues, and developing a deep understanding of the context, especially in case of an intercultural setting. Resourcefulness. Resourcefulness and creativity are skills that come in handy during negotiations where spot thinking is required to overcome new constraints. Problem solving. Most negotiations occur where there is an impasse and no progress can be made. Seasoned negotiators apply their problem solving skills to overcome the situation and end the stalemate. Active listening. This skill helps you to perfectly understand the other party's position and help create an atmosphere of trust and confidence, which is a great catalyst for a successful negotiation. Persuasiveness. The ability to convince the other party that the terms you have set forth are justified and get them to agree to it is called persuasiveness. In other words, successful negotiators have the ability to influence the other party. Identify trade-offs. You must study the entire situation deeply to identify issues that are dear to the other party but not very important for you. Such trade-offs can be exploited to your advantage by allowing to take a step closer on that point in return for something of value to you. 3.5.3 Key strategies in negotiation. The naive approach to negotiation is based on a reactive tactic rather than taking the proactive approach. The biggest downside of the reactive approach is that the outcomes or possible outcomes of the negotiation will be a function of the proposals or demand coming from your counterpart. The reactive approach may seem to work in simple situations such as haggling for a discount from a street vendor. However, complex negotiations require a well-developed strategy that you can implement during the process. Some of the key strategies in negotiation are discussed below. Engage with stakeholders other than obvious counterpart. Before you begin the negotiation process, think about all the parties other than the counterpart that have an interest in the outcome of the negotiation. You may find some stakeholder who could be your counterpart in bringing about the desired outcome without even having to negotiate with the original counterpart. You will be required to think about ways to engage with the new counterpart to achieve the desired outcomes. This strategy is frequently used in legal cases where a hostile party is disciplined by using another related party in the value chain by negotiating with the latter to halt supplies to the former. Find out about potential allies at the planning stage. During the negotiation process, you may require the support of others to help with your cause. You must complete the potential ally identification process at the planning stage so that you can fall back on your ally for crucial support in negotiation. Identify your potential adversaries. Just as you identify your allies, the process of identification of potential adversaries who can potentially derail the negotiation is equally important. If possible, address the concerns of your opponents to prevent them from forming a damaging alliance and trying to block the negotiations. Use your leverage effectively. Leverage is generally perceived as the negotiating power that one party has over the other. It may be thought of as the extent to which one party wants the deal relative to the other and the relative value of the best alternative available to each party. Work on your best alternative to negotiated agreement, BATNA, B-A-T-N-A. B-A-T-N-A, BATNA is the next best deal available with you in case the negotiations with the party fails. You will feel much more confident walking into the negotiation room if you have prepared your BATNA. It will also give you the leverage to demand more from the other party. The first step is to list down all your options and check how feasible and actionable each one is. The second step is to make the same assessment for your counterparts' available and actionable options. Leverage and negotiation. ABC Limited was in urgent need of appointment of a vendor to procure laptops for a new batch of management trainees. A tender was floated for procurement and only one bid was received for the same. This bidder had already worked with ABC Limited previously. The bid was too high and there was no time to retender. The procurement manager of ABC Limited was in a difficult situation. He decided to invite the bidder for negotiation of the prices received in the bid. The procurement manager had already checked the work record of the bidder and he found that a substantial sum of the bidder was lying with ABC Limited as security deposit, which was not being released due to some issue with the document submitted in connection with the previous work executed by the bidder. However, the work itself was completed satisfactorily. The procurement manager had some leverage in hand to negotiate with. In the meeting, the bidder refused to reduce the prices as he was aware that he was the only bidder. However, the procurement manager told the bidder that he was considering retender as there was only one bid and that too was very high. It was communicated in a matter-of-fact manner and gave the bidder an impression that he could lose the work despite being the only bidder. The procurement manager also stated that he was aware that security deposit of the bidder lying with the ABC Limited and he could help in getting the matter resolved. The offer seemed good to the bidder as there was some chance of getting the stuck payment released in exchange for a reasonable reduction in the bid. The vendor readily agreed to resubmit a lower bid. 3.6. Communication skills during a conflict. Conflict can be defined as a disagreement or dispute between interdependent parties that often arises due to incompatible goals, scarcity of resources, or opposing point of view. Interpersonal conflicts can be manifested by individuals over an interesting spectrum of verbal and non-verbal expressions, ranging from complete withdrawal into silence to an emotional and furious outburst. Interpersonal conflicts are bound to happen because whenever individuals go out of sync in terms of information exchange, potential misunderstanding can develop, which can turn into a conflict if not addressed in a timely manner. The importance of communication for preventing and resolving conflicts can hardly be exaggerated. Poor communication, more often than not, causes misunderstandings that soon balloons into a conflict. Therefore, communication as a tool will help you build relationships and help you in managing conflicts that will inevitably occur even in the strongest of relationships. Figure 3.2 depicts communication is the answer. 3.6.1 Communication strategies for conflict situations. Active listening. Active listening is one communication skill that we'll keep talking about in this course. Despite being one of the most potent skills in the entire process of communication, it remains the most underutilized and neglected one. When in a conflict situation, lend an ear to the other person and listen genuinely to what he or she has to say. This listening has to be without any animated expressions, interruptions, and loss of attention. The person being heard will feel placated with your sincere effort. Use the pauses to restate or paraphrase what the other person has been saying to confirm your understanding. Watch your tone and pitch. A very interesting fact that you will notice during arguments is that when one party begins speaking in a very loud pitch, the natural reaction from the other party is to respond in an equally loud pitch, which leads to worsening of the situation. It can be deduced that, on the contrary, if you mellow down your pitch and volume during a heated argument, the other party will be compelled to do the same, thereby de-escalating the situation. Therefore, you can make use of this strategy in real life by controlling the pitch and tone of your speech in a conflict.
Timing of communication. Bad timing to attempt resolving a conflict can potentially prolong the conflict despite the best of intentions. In interpersonal conflicts, sometimes it has been observed that one party is so eager to resolve the conflict that an attempt is made even if the other party is unwell or in an important office engagement or a social gathering. Such ill-timed interventions can further worsen the situation and make resolution even more challenging and painful. The best strategy is to ask the other person if he or she is comfortable and willing to have a dialogue and take cues from the response, both verbal and non-verbal. Keep your non-verbal communication in check. Improper non-verbal communication can cause as much damage in a conflict situation as can poor verbal communication. The strategy to be followed here is to refrain from expressing extreme emotions such as walking out in the middle of a conversation, withdrawing into silence, etc. This animated display will send the signal that you do not wish the situation to improve, further reducing any chances of de-escalation and resolution of the dispute. No absolute statements. In a conflict situation, one should avoid using absolute statements like never, ever, always as an expression of emphasis because it can further aggravate the situation and spark a fresh series of arguments on how the statement was unjustified. Avoid you statements and use I instead. In a conflict situation, the communication has to sound like an attempt at reasoning with the other party and not like an interrogation. Rather than using sentences that contain you, such as, "Why did you give away all the credit of success to Mr. X?" Instead, use I statements like, "I felt dejected when all the credit of success was given to Mr. X." You statements sound more like blaming or accusing someone for something. Accept responsibility. Admitting your mistake graciously is not actually a strategy, rather, it is plain honesty. which would resonate well with the other party. Owning responsibility of one's mistakes is a trait found in leaders and is appreciated by all. It can be a profound experience for the one owning responsibility and equally as overwhelming for the other party to see such a gesture of honesty and sincerity. It would have an immediate effect of the de-escalation of the situation. Avoid passing judgments and verdicts. Jumping to conclusions when you are extremely agitated and stressed is a bad idea, as rational thought would be missing from such conclusions. In fact, one should make a conscious effort not to pass any judgments on the statement, behavior, motive of the other person, as it is certain to backfire and would lead to a rapid deterioration of the situation. The best strategy is to actively listen to the other person, process each thought with logic and facts before summarizing the chain of events in your words. This can be followed by presenting your account of the whole matter in an empathetic manner so as not to hurt the sentiment of the already upset counterpart. 3.7 Mentoring and Appraisals. Mentoring is a learning relationship between an experienced person and a relatively junior person, where the former offers guidance, support, and counsel for the long-term career development of the latter. It is a one-to-one interaction between the mentor, the senior person, and the mentee, the junior person. The mentee stands to gain a great deal of knowledge and wisdom from the mentor without having to go through the slow learning curve. The mentor, on the other hand, gets a fresh perspective on the business and possible new solutions to old work problems. 3.7.1 Objectives of Mentoring. To train and groom employees. To fast track the professional development of an employee. To foster creativity and innovation. To provide an opportunity for skill transfer to the mentor. For succession planning. Effective communication between a mentor and a mentee is the key to a successful mentoring program. It is important to understand that the communication in a mentoring relationship is often about imparting problem-solving skills to enable the mentee to learn to solve such problems without actual hand-holding. The mentee may just be learning to communicate in a professional setting and would look up to the mentor for guidance. 3.7.2 How to ensure effective communication in a mentoring relationship. Active listening. A mentee may have 100 questions for you simply because he is new to the professional world or to the industry. You must make it a point to listen to him so as to inspire and build trust in the relationship. Listening actively is also important for you to interpret the issue in the right context so that your presence caters to it adequately. Speak in first person. Speaking in first person conveys ownership of whatever advice you are giving as a mentor and helps inspire confidence in the mentee. So, try to use more I statements like, I have observed while working on similar assignments that. Ask questions, probing to gauge the understanding of the mentee on the underlying concepts of an issue which is being discussed helps the mentor to calibrate the learning process appropriately. Asking questions as you go along during a session is also important to ascertain whether the mentee is grasping the nuances well. Body language. Make use of your knowledge of body language, including gestures, posture, expressions, and eye contact to supplement your reading of the mentee's understanding. Any divergence in the two will prompt you to interject and ask questions to clarify and improve understanding. Mind the generation gap. More often than not, there is some age difference between the mentor and the mentee, leading to potentially significant differences in the perceptions, metaphors, and vocabulary. Seeking clarification wherever you think your mentee has used a certain term which you find to be out of place from your perspective is also a good thing to do to avoid divergence in understanding. Use technology to communicate. After the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a significant increase in work from home (WFH) option for employees. In such cases, the mentor and the mentee may be sitting far apart and physical meetings may happen rarely. Communicating through the electronic media, that is, email, instant messaging, IM, etc., may be a good idea for routine issues. However, the more important issues are best discussed in person or with the use of video conferencing VC applications such as MS Teams, WebEx, Zoom, etc. as per the policy of your organization. 3.7.3 Appraisals. Appraisal is a tool in the hands of the reporting managers to systematically track, evaluate, and document the performance of a team member, based on which regular feedback is provided to the latter to enable improvement in performance and deliverables. The performance appraiser is also used as a document based on which pay hikes, job rotations, promotions, etc. are decided. Appraisal and communication. Confidentiality. The most important aspect of communication of performance appraisals is confidentiality. Appraisal contains sensitive information as to the employee's pay grade, designation, roles and responsibilities, key performance indicators, timelines, etc., which needs to be kept confidential. When appraisal forms are sent, they are kept in sealed envelopes and handed over to the addressee only. However, these days the performance appraisal systems are online, application based, with each supervisor and employee getting login accounts to keep it private and confidential. One-to-one communication. Appraisal, being such a sensitive process, needs to be conducted with due care and diligence. Never conduct appraisals for your team members in a group, as it would entail ethical issues. Discussing one's performance in a group can be insulting and humiliating. Besides, you cannot expect a team member to be candid in front of others. Therefore, it has to be a one-to-one exercise, and a focused and a detailed one at that, conducted in a dignified manner. Listen and discuss openly. An appraisal is not complete without the employee agreeing to what the assessment says. Therefore, the supervisor and the employee have to be in agreement on the performance appraisal before it is formalized. In case the employee differs in opinion about your assessment, sit down and discuss the points where the employee feels that the assessment is not a true reflection of actual performance. Listen carefully without any preconceived notion or bias, as the employee may really have a point which requires rethinking of certain items in the appraisal made by you. It will help clear any potential resentment which can even lead to the exit of the employee from the organization. It is a fact that attrition in many organizations peak immediately after appraisals. This can be avoided if reporting managers are able to communicate well during appraisals and listen to what the employees have to say and valuing it on merits. Celebrating the outcome. As a supervisor, you must take it a point to congratulate your team members on the appraisals and promotions in a way that makes them feel appreciated. Many supervisors spend some time with the employees at their workstations discussing and commending the journey of the employees over the appraisal period. This recognition can be a great motivation for the employees to continue to put in their best. 3.8 Communication in social media and digital communication. Digital communication, the process of communicating with people through various online channels, including social media, emails, web banner adverts, online adverts, and advertorials, blogs, podcasts, etc., is known as digital communication. The digital medium has gained huge traction over the past decade. Social media, a platform of interaction for the people that they use to create, share, and consume information, ideas, thoughts, entertaining content, etc., is known as social media. The most popular social media platforms include YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and blogs. Social media is used by a very large number of people on a daily basis for having conversations, sharing thought and ideas, images and videos, advertising and marketing, and making new friends and relationships. Profiles are created on these platforms not just by people for their personal use, but also by organizations, institutions, and brands. The biggest advantage of communication using social media is that there is hardly any cost involved in it. Brands can reach a wide audience at negligible costs if they choose to utilize the social media. In fact, there are many brands such as Rolls-Royce, Ferrero Rocher, and Zara that hardly spend any money on advertising through the conventional media of television, commercials, TVCs, and print adverts. Such companies rely almost entirely on digital communication and social media for the purpose. 3.8.1 Social media communication as a key external communication strategy. Social media has captured the imagination of marketing professionals and communicators across businesses and organizations. The entire paradigm of external communication has shifted in favor of social media. It has changed the way corporations communicate with its external stakeholders, including customers, investors, distributors, suppliers, etc. Managers use the social media platforms for storytelling, creating a buzz around an event or a product, spreading awareness, and so on. Organizations have started realizing that their priority is to continuously engage with their stakeholders and that social media is too important a tool to be ignored. The importance of social media for communication with external stakeholders can be understood from the reasons mentioned below. A. Social media facilitates direct and open communication with the stakeholders. Brands can rely on information discovery by stakeholders provided that they keep posting engaging content. B. Social media is a great tool for mobilizing public opinion and it is increasingly being used for market research, surveys, opinion polls, product development, customer service, etc. C. Social media enables organizations in reaching a wide audience at negligible costs, which would otherwise involve spending huge sums on advertising through conventional media. D. Another great advantage of social media for communicating with external stakeholders is that it provides a channel for direct feedback on a continuous basis, which enables communication professionals to adapt the company's offerings to the evolving needs and expectations of the stakeholders. 3.8.2 Communication using social media campaigns. Social media campaigns are presently the most preferred medium for businesses to connect with customers. The primary reason is that social media is much more engaging than the conventional media. Further, social media enables artificial intelligence (AI) enabled delivery of customized content based on the interests of various target groups and individuals. Let us see how communication professionals build engaging social media campaigns on various platforms. YouTube is a platform that is used by communications professionals for brand building by partnering with influencers, creating how-to videos for relevant brands, creating behind the scenes or making of something videos that creates a story around the evolution of a product, etc. Brands utilize Twitter in many ways, including a direct marketing communication with customers, conduct market research and surveys, and provide customer support by setting up full-fledged customer support handle. Many brands make use of trending handles to communicate with its target market. Facebook is a great medium to engage with groups and social communities. Professionals communicate with the communities through dedicated brand pages and groups. Facebook store feature also allows small businesses to create an online store on their platform for free. Instagram is used by the brands that rely on visual appeal to connect with its target market. For instance, all brands connected to the fashion industry, celebrity marketing, and so on. LinkedIn is a professional networking platform where people share and discuss their thoughts, ideas, experiences, etc. Blogs are internet sites that are written in the form of a journal where the author posts entries in a sequential manner. Brands often use blogs as a part of their web content to reach out to its target audience. Blogging is not just used for external communication, but also for internal communication regarding policy changes, new initiatives, etc. 3.8.3 Challenges in social media communication. Social media communication has great advantages for corporations. However, it is also the most challenging medium of communication for the reasons discussed below. Creating content frequently. People have very short memories when it comes to digital content. They need something new for consumption every time they are online. Thus, social media communicators have the gargantuan task of developing creative content too frequently. you would appreciate that it is indeed a challenge, for human creativity cannot be forced. Customizing content for various target groups. Creating content on a regular basis is not good enough. There is also a need to customize the content to suit the tastes of different target audiences. This task of customization can be equally enormous and time consuming. The issue with customizing the content for too many audiences is that it becomes difficult to maintain the uniqueness of content. Timing. Timing, the release of content and the duration for which the content is to be run on various platforms is also one of the most challenging aspects of social media communication. Social media communicators have to keep a close watch on how well the content is being received in order to make the most out of it. If a popular campaign is withdrawn too early to make a way for a fresh campaign, the potential benefits of the former may be lost. Lack of expertise and resources. Social media content creation is a highly skilled job, and the expertise may not be available in-house in most companies. Further, if you want to use multimedia content in your posts, finding the right multimedia which is of high quality, fitting the specifications, etc. can be a challenge. Legal aspects. Another key issue with social media communication is that of the legal implications pertaining intellectual property rights, IPR. Therefore, social media communicators have to be very conscientious when using multimedia content developed by third parties. 3.9 Summary 1. The exchange of thoughts, ideas, and feelings between people through verbal and non-verbal communication is called interpersonal communication. 2. Team communication refers to the exchange of information among the members of a team working towards a common goal or objective. 3. Negotiation is the dialogue that two or more parties engage in for sorting out their differences. Effective communication strategies help in successful negotiation and finding a win-win solution. 4. A disagreement between interdependent parties that arises due to incompatible goals, scarcity of resources, or opposing point of view is known as a conflict. Proper communication is the most potent solution for preventing conflicts from arising and also resolving them without much damage. 5. Mentoring is referred to as the process of guiding, advising, and supporting a junior by a seasoned and experienced senior within the organization. 6. Appraisal refers to a continuous process of evaluating and documenting the performance of an employee in the execution of the duties assigned to him or her for a specific period of assessment. The key performance indicators, KPIs, expected outcomes, etc. need to be documented well and communicated for a fair and just assessment. 7. Digital communication and its major component, that is, social media, are the most important communication channel for developing and nurturing relationships with your stakeholders. The right communication mix using various digital media channels help in reaching the right people and relaying the right message. 3.10 Self-assessment questions. 1. Discuss the benefits of improving communication within a team. 2. What is interpersonal communication? How would you use the uncertainty reduction theory to help you transition successfully into your new study or work environment? 3. Identify some negotiation skills that you think are the most useful in turning the tide in your favor. 4. Have you ever been embroiled in a conflict? Recall the strategies that you used to resolve it and compare it with the strategies given in the lesson. 5. Why is so much emphasis given on confidentiality during appraisal communication? 6. What are some of the strategies that you use on your personal social media handles to invite attention of people and engage with them? Thanks for listening.